all aware that the government has been combating this locust invasion from the time that the insect invaded this country on the 28th of December last year, but we effectively started our efforts around 2nd or 3rd of January. And since then, we have been upscaling our efforts to deal with this locust. We initially started our engagement, our intervention with 2 aircrafts. We upscaled that intervention to 5 aircrafts. Now we are talking about 9 aircraft, but of course our target is to get to 20 aircrafts so that we can effectively be able to deal with the locust invasion. But nonetheless, those efforts have been able to bear fruits. The kind of destruction that have been able to mete out has not been much, because as soon as they are sighted, they are sprayed immediately, and that has made it difficult for them to undertake a lot of destruction on farmlands as well as on vegetation. But nonetheless, we must acknowledge that their presence in the country is actually a threat to food security, and the government effort is to ensure that that does not happen. There have been several areas in the country that have been affected, and in total, we right now are talking about 18 counties, and some of these counties are actually repeat counties. They were out, then they came back, in maybe small swarms, but in counties that the locusts have been able to visit are 18. And just a summary of which these counties are, we're talking about Embu, Mandera, Marsabit, Garissa, Isiolo, Wajir, Samburu, Meru, Baringo, Turkana, Machakos, Kirinyaga, Tharaka Nithi, Laikipia, Kitui, Tana River, Murang'a, and Kajiado. Of course, the last 2 days, there were reports that there were locusts sighted in Kisumu County, but again, in a report that was issued by the county government yesterday, they were not necessarily the actual locust that we are talking about. So maybe a different strain of locust, and that's why Kisumu County is not part of what we have mentioned here today. There are concerns about the impact that the locusts have been able to cause, even the kind of consequence they have been able to bring out. And yes, indeed, they have got the potential to be able to cause destruction on vegetation and farmlands, which, like I said earlier, is a threat to our food security. And the government has been able to try and ensure that this does not happen, and necessary interventions have been put in place to limit the risk. Now, some of those interventions, on which to go to talk about them right now, the government has actually working in partnership with private stakeholders and undertaking all the intervention. This is something that the government cannot be able to do on its own, not just Kenya government, but of course all governments. You must work with various private agencies, including also government agencies. So the first intervention that we have undertaken as a government that we've been able to deploy 9 aircraft to undertake surveillance and spraying operations. Now, 5 of these 9 aircraft are spraying aircraft, meaning that they are fixed-wing aircrafts which undertake the spraying. The spraying can only be done, and for those who have been able to travel those bases, you have seen how the aircraft are fitted to undertake spraying operations. 4 of them are helicopters, whose main role is to carry out surveillance. The aircraft have been positioned in different bases, and I would wish to talk about those bases right now. The first base, which is the initial base where the aircraft was stationed from the very, very beginning, is Wajir base. And here in Wajir, we have got 3 aircrafts, 2 fixed wing for spraying, and 1 helicopter for surveillance. The 2 fixed wing are from the Kenya Defense Forces, and another one from Desert Locust Control Organization of East Africa, and another one, another surveillance aircraft. So we have 3 in Wajir. Now the surveillance aircraft is from International Red Locust Control Organization. So you can see it's a collaborative effort that puts together government as well as international agencies. The other base is Isiolo, where we have got 2 aircraft from Farmland Aviation. This is a private entity that has come in to try and to see how they can be able to boost government effort. We have another 2 aircraft in Masinga, and these 2 aircraft are one from Locust Control Organization, Desert Locust Control Organization, and Kenya Forest Service. The other base is Marsabit. Again, we have got 2 aircraft from Kenya Wildlife Service. We are also opening up additional bases in Lodwar and Garissa. All this will be sufficient bases to be able to spray and to surveil the counties that are invaded. Additional intervention is the distribution of pesticides. It is possible to have aircraft, yes, but they'll not be of much use if you don't have sufficient pesticides. So the government has been able to distribute 28,000. This is as of now, but from the time we started, it's well over 100,000 liters of pesticides. The last time we talked about 7,000 liters of pesticide that had been secured from Sumitomo. Now we have got additional 28,000 pesticide that have been distributed, to all the affected areas to be used in spraying. Now we have talked about aerial spray, but aerial spray on their own have an impact, but perhaps may not be as effective on their own without being complemented by other additional strategies. So the other additional strategy is ground spray. And in ground spray, we have support from the Kenya Defense Forces that have given out 3 Land Rovers that have been fitted with ground spray. And this is being used in areas of Samburu, Isiolo, and neighboring regions. We have also 34 motorized knapsack sprayers distributed to the county teams, including NY's team. Now, this knapsack simply means that they are actually, mounted on the back of individuals, and then they can be used to spray. Additionally, there are 70 handheld sprayers which are with county teams, and they're also undertaking ground spray. So we are complementing aerial spray with ground spray. We have in addition trained teams from NYS, and as of now, we are looking at 500 teams from NYS that are trained to help in ground spray. They are being trained. Out of those that have been trained so far, 85 have been deployed in areas of Isiolo. There's also 240 county government extension officers that have been trained for monitoring, surveillance, and reporting. So locusts have to be sighted, and a report must be sent to the base, and then the aircraft will go to be able to spray. So some of these teams that have been trained, their job is also to train others, but also to be able to identify that this is the locust and it's different from grasshopper, so that we do not waste resources, in terms of aircraft resources, to go and only to find out that these are actually grasshoppers and not locusts. So that's why it is important to have these teams trained, so that they're not just spraying, but also they're able to train others to be able to differentiate between locusts and grasshoppers. Like I did mention at the beginning, that this is not something the government can be able to do on its own without collaboration, and we collaborated with several players and stakeholders. Here, I just want to mention a few, because these locusts are in county regions, and therefore collaboration with the county government is #1 priority. So we're collaborating with all the county governments in the areas that have been so far affected. And that collaboration certainly is through the Council of Governance. So there is a lot of very close collaboration between the national government and county governments in as far as combating this locust invasion is concerned. We're also collaborating with the Plant Protection Services, Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, CALO, Farmland Aviation. I did mention they have given us 2 aircraft that are being used to spray in Isiolo. We are also working together with the Joint Agricultural Secretariat, University of Nairobi, Desert Locust Control Organization for East Africa, Kenya Plant Inspectorate Services, and many more. So this is a collaborative effort, and you can see that the guests that have been introduced are the guests that actually are in the front line to deal with the issue that we are addressing here today. So this is an indication that it is actually a multi-agency effort to deal with this locust invasion. And therefore, as we bring this issue of locust to a close, we can say that the government has put in place measures to combat the locust and will not relent until the situation is put under control. The public is therefore requested not to panic, even as efforts to combat the insects are being scaled up to effectively eradicate the threat. Remember, this is not necessarily a Kenyan problem. And that's why we are talking about Desert Control Organization of Eastern Africa. And therefore, this is a regional problem. It did not even start from East Africa. This thing came all the way, for those who take time to be appraised on global events. This is also ravaging other parts of Asia, right? So this is a global problem. It's not necessarily a Kenyan issue. It's not a regional issue on its own. And that explains why this gentleman from Desert Locust Control Organization are here with us. And some of these, cross-border issues require cross-border protocols to be able to deal with them, right? And therefore, I'm only saying this so that we do not look at it as an isolated problem that's only the Kenyan problem. It is not, right? So with that in mind, I now wish to address the next item, which is